Hey, what's going on, guys? In this video, I want to change it up a little bit and talk about something that I'm sure a lot of you bigger runners may have been starting running for, or something that you're looking to continue doing as you're picking up running. And that is going to be talking about losing weight and still performing as a runner. So it's a very common thing that I've seen before where there's like someone who they may have gained a little bit of weight. They're starting at 200 plus pounds, and either through doctors or just through their own self-awareness, they've realized, oh my God, I need to start losing weight. And then so what I've seen a lot of the times, and even with some of my family, is they will overcorrect. And what I mean by that is they'll start doing things like starving themselves, only eating crazy low, like 1,200 calories, and then trying to run like 5-6 miles every day. And it's something that I've seen where all that does is over the long haul, it actually causes this overcorrection from, you go from one extreme to the other. You go from that extreme I was just talking about to the other end where it's just, oh, it's impossible to lose weight. And so in this video, I want to give some guidance on how you can actually get some better progression, something that's going to be more sustainable over time. Because I think at the end of the day, that is the key to building any new habit, becoming a better version of ourselves, learning new skills, whatever it is that you want to do at the end of the day, you have to find a way to make it sustainable. So there's going to be 3 very important things that I'm going to cover here today as the starting point if you're either looking at continuing your weight loss journey and you may have stalled a little bit, or if you're just new to the running game and you want to lose weight as well. Because I think it's also important to keep in mind that even for someone like myself, I consider myself a mini Clydesdale. I weigh about 190 pounds now. I've actually started my own weight loss journey again. I was originally between 195 to 200 pounds a few weeks ago, and I've already started losing weight by practicing what I will be talking about with you here today. So with that being said, it's going to be 3 really important things. And the analogy I'm going to be using throughout is going to be the concept of how does someone save money and invest over time. So the first thing that you need to do is that you need to actually understand what is your daily caloric intake need for losing weight. And it's important for whether you're losing weight or gaining weight. As someone, my background, if you're new to the channel, I've weighed up to 230, 240 pounds bodybuilding. And about 2.5 years ago, I got back into running. I had an athletic background. I played college tennis. And then after college tennis, I told myself, I'm never running again. I never want to have to do that. And then over time, I realized, oh, there's a lot of benefits actually to continuously running. So, the first thing that we want to do here though, is we want to be thinking about what are my caloric goals. It's the same thing like saving money, right? What is the goal that I need to get to? How am I actually going to be measuring against that? And the most important thing to do is understand what your daily caloric intake need is going to be. So I'll pop up over here the calculator that I will also share with a link in the description box down below, and it's completely for free. I just put it together myself. But the concept is, and the really simple way to go about it is take whatever your current body weight is and multiply it by 12.5. And that's going to give you a moderate caloric deficit. And the key here, as everything else, and as I've talked about previously with talking about making things sustainable, is that you want to do things in moderation. You don't want to overcorrect and starve yourself, because then it's going to, 1, make it really hard for you to stick to it from a diet standpoint, and then 2, it's also going to impact how you're actually going to be able to perform when you're running. And so it's very important that you know what your actual goal is. You need to understand what your caloric intake needs are going to be. So let's say, for example, you're 200 pounds, you take the 200, you multiply it by 12.5, and that's going to be your caloric goal. Now, the extreme variation of that is going to be taking your current weight and multiply it times 10. That is going to be the lowest possible recommended weight loss to go with. So that would be for a 200 pound person, 2,000 calories, which is very little. And it's important to know that the reason why you also want to keep it moderate to that 12.5 is because you're going to be running. So those numbers are based off of the average lifestyle, but if you're running, your running is already going to be burning additional calories. So you don't want to add that additional tax of not getting enough food and energy in from your diet. So that's number one. Number two is going to be, you then need to understand, okay, what are my meals going to look like throughout the day? It's the same thing from savings, right? You need to know where that money is going. You need to know where your calories are going. And so you need to start tracking and knowing what your meal-to-meal basis is. And so as well as the caloric calculator, it'll also give you an output of what your daily calories will be per meal. So I believe I have it between per 3 meals and 4 meals, but either way, that's a good starting point, and it is going to take a little bit of work, but it's important to understand this because again, you just have to know where is your money going? Where are your calories going at the end of the day? And then the third and final thing, and this is the most important thing, and I always keep notes just in case I forget something, is what is going to be your peri-workout nutrition. Peri-workout is just a fancy word for what are you eating around your actual workout. So for example, for myself, I run first thing in the morning, and I don't eat breakfast before I go on a run. It just doesn't sit well in my stomach. So what I do beforehand though is that I will have a carb drink with some electrolytes to fuel my workout. At the end of the day, food is not something that should be demonized. It is something that should be, food is fuel. It is something that is going to help you perform. And it's really important when you're dieting to time your calories. So for myself, as someone who runs in the morning, for example, I drink a carb drink and then I have electrolytes, and then that will get me through my run, whether it's 4 to 6 miles. And then, so same thing as well on the other end of the spectrum though, right? So let's say, for example, you run in the afternoon or you run in the evening. You want to base a lot of your calories, in particular your carbs, around those workouts because you're going to need them pre-run in the form of, as I had mentioned before, a carb drink, or maybe if you're eating later in the day, you can just have some fruit or what have you. But then also at the other end, you also want to have calories afterwards. You need those carbs to fuel you and help with recovery immediately afterwards. So let's say, for example, for me, my first meal right after my morning run is going to be my overnight oats that I put together. And that has about 70 to 80 grams of carbs in it at any given point, depending on what I'm doing with my diet at the time. But let's say, for example, if you run in the afternoon or evening, maybe you just have a lower carbohydrate breakfast. So let's say something like, you have your eggs, and let's say you have some oatmeal or cream of rice or even just rice, right? Like something I like sometimes is just having rice, egg whites, and eggs, and then that's a very simple, easily digestible amount of calories. But again, you want to make sure before your run, that's where a lot of your carbohydrate intake is going to be. It's going to be pre and post run. So very important to keep that in mind. And now the other thing, because I had talked about this before in the Supwell community, is, well, what about long runs? What about if I've got a workout in the middle of the week and I need to have some gels or something intra workout essentially? I always say take them, and I don't count them as part of my daily calorie goal. I don't add it in as, oh, well, if I have, let's say 100 grams of carbs on my long run on the weekend, then that's going to eat into the 250, 300 grams of carbs I need in the day. No, I don't do that. I don't consider that because that is an excessive amount of calories that have been burned. So I don't want to deplete myself too much because those long extended workouts are already going to be doing that. So just to recap, 1, know what your caloric intake goals are, and I have the calculator for you. Number 2, know what your meal plan is going to be, and that can change day to day, week to week. I normally will reevaluate mine on a monthly basis, just because I'm pretty lazy and I have a great wife that can cook, so she makes me the same meals and I eat them 6-7 days out of the week. I just say 6 because normally we eat out once on weekends for my long run because we all need to have some normalcy here at the end of the day. And then the last thing is going to be timing your carbohydrates, because those are what's going to be fueling your performance. So you want, I would say, anywhere between 60 to 80% of your calories, or sorry, not your calories necessarily, your carbs coming around your workout. So whether right before or right afterwards, because you need them to fuel your performance, but then you're also going to need them for the recovery component afterwards. And that will also help a lot from the performance side of things, because those carbs are going to be essential for your performance. So let's say, for example, you diet and you're like me and you want to run in the morning, but you don't want to have any carbs beforehand because you're like, well, I have my carbs throughout my meals for the rest of the day. Your body is going to take a hit because it's already going to be burning its own energy stores by losing weight by virtue of a caloric deficit. So you need to be making sure that you're timing those carbohydrates appropriately. And the last thing I do want to say as well is it's really important to know what your body actually digests well. Now, I'm not suggesting you have to go do this, but this was something that was really helpful for me and why I was able to lose 5 pounds over the last few weeks. And it's because I did a DNA test a few years ago, and I remembered, I was like, oh yeah, I got a DNA test, and it was specifically for nutrition. And one of the things it told me in that test was that my body does not process fat as well as carbs. So if I want to diet, I think it said something crazy like I would lose 2 to 3 times the weight or the speed at which I lose weight if I focus more on lowering my fat while maintaining a higher carbohydrate intake, which I think for us as runners, I think, that kind of sounds like jackpot, right? It's like, okay, more than happy to consume more carbs. And so what I've done is I've just started eating leaner meats. So either it's ground chicken, we have chuck roast, that's normally what we get for the beef that I eat every day. And then tofu is pretty low in fat as well. So the main sources of protein for me are, I have my overnight oats in the morning with protein powder. I have tofu as my protein source for one meal, and then I have a chicken and beef meal, and those are meals 3 and 4. So again, maybe that's something that you want to experiment with as well, balancing out where your caloric actual macros are going to be. I always believe in having a gram per pound of goal or body weight, again, depending on where your current weight is. But then the carbs and the fat, those are your fuel sources, right? And so for me, I definitely noticed a big difference by simply having more carbs than trying to keep my fats higher. Because at the end of the day, it's one of those things where, if I'm trying to diet, I'm trying to lean out a little bit, I think my body can use the fat that's on my body for whatever it needs from a resources standpoint. So with that being said, guys, I hope that was helpful for all of you. That I would say those 3 things are the most essential parts to losing weight. If you have any particular questions though, as far as anything else that you may want me to talk about, please let me know down below. I want to make sure that it's not just these shoes that I'm giving reviews for, but it's also giving some additional advice that's going to help us all as runners as well. And actually, that's the one thing I do want to close on, is that I know that for myself as a bigger runner, and I'm sure there are plenty of you other Clydesdales out there, that a lot of the time we have this mindset of, I am a quote unquote bigger runner. And I think the danger of that sometimes is that becomes our identity. And I think it's important to understand that just because of whatever our current state is, that doesn't necessarily mean that needs to be our future state. And we can work towards a better, healthier future state as well. Not just for all the psychological benefits that we get from running, but also from a physiological standpoint as well. And I think especially for myself, because when I was running a few years ago, when I was lighter, I was about 175, my joints felt a lot better. I didn't have as much pain. I didn't necessarily need to have some stability shoes because there wasn't so much pressure on my knees and ankles. And I think it's been important for me to remind myself that, like, okay, just because I'm a Clydesdale today doesn't mean I need to be a Clydesdale tomorrow. And I think that's why I said at the beginning, it's really important that we want to make sure these things that we do are sustainable for ourselves, because we don't want to make it feel like a burden to us at the end of the day. We want to make sure that it's something that, we're still enjoying the process and we're seeing the benefits over time. So with that being said, guys, I hope you found this helpful. It's a video I've been wanting to make for a while because it's something that I feel like is really essential, and I feel like it's something that's just been missing in the general running community as a whole. A lot of the times everyone's focusing on the gear, the shoes, what's the freshest outfit. But I think for a lot of us bigger runners, I think having some additional tools that will actually help us reach our goals in the long run from a health standpoint is equally, if not even more important. So with that being said, guys, if you made it to the end of the video, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. And if you didn't, or felt like I was missing something, or I could give a little bit more detail, please let me know down below. I'm here to support and help you all. So with that being said, have a nice day, and we'll talk soon.